The Justice Department has finally released some of the highly anticipated Epstein files. More than 300,000 pages of documents related to the late convicted offender were made public today. They include photos, flight logs, grand jury testimony, and a lot of heavy redacted.
Something wild is going down with Steve Harvey. And it's not just a slip-up. It's a straight-up wipeout happening right before everyone's eyes. It's like somebody slammed the panic button, and boom! The man's being erased in real time. Just a week ago, Harvey was still the smooth-talking king of daytime TV, turning family advice into fame and cash, the go-to guy for real talk and laughs. Now, his socials are wiped clean. His new shows are on pause mid-production, and word is his whole team's gone into full lockdown mode. This isn't the usual PR cleanup. This feels like a total digital vanishing act, and people close to the situation say it's way deeper than a bad joke or awkward interview. It's linked to something massive, something tied to the buried files connected to Jeffrey Epstein. The first red flag that things weren't normal hit when Harvey's long-running talk show suddenly went on hiatus. No final episode, no goodbye moment, just a cold corporate message about reassessing priorities. That's when the whispers started, and not from gossip blogs, but straight from inside his inner circle. Insiders say investors are fuming, not over what Harvey did, but over what he knows and what he might have let slip. Those files aren't just sensitive. They're the kind of explosive secrets that powerful names have spent years and fortunes keeping hidden. And now sources say Harvey's name doesn't just appear in them, it matters in them. Whatever he got caught up in, it's got serious people scrambling behind closed doors. It's all connected to flight logs, private messages, and time-stamped records that allegedly place Steve Harvey within Epstein's circle during some of the most questionable years. And now those files, they've landed in the wrong hands. This isn't just about one random photo or a sketchy friendship. It's way bigger than that. When the Justice Department dropped the latest Epstein-related documents, one file stood out. A 1996 FBI complaint claiming Epstein had stolen private images of underage individuals and even threatened to burn down someone's house if they dared to speak. The name of the victim was blacked out, but legal analysts have linked those details to Maria Farmer, one of the earliest and most vocal accusers in the entire case. What wasn't redacted, though, were the patterns, the dates, the movements, the repeated names that expose how deep the network went. And yes, Harvey's name allegedly shows up there. Not as some random passerby, but, according to 2006 flight manifests, as someone present during critical stretches when Epstein's shady dealings were at their peak. There are photos, too, like one snapped in 2004, showing Harvey standing with Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's longtime associate, at an event buzzing with other well-known figures. That's the kind of image that investors and execs are desperate to bury fast. They don't want people asking why he was there or what he knew. And what really sets this whole scandal apart from the usual celebrity drama is how the people running Harvey's empire are reacting. They're not just going quiet, they're panicking, pulling strings, and doing everything they can to lock this story down before it explodes even further. This isn't about angry fans or online cancel mobs. This is way deeper. We're talking about the big money backers who just last week were cashing in on Steve Harvey's squeaky clean family values image. Now those same investors are calling emergency meetings, digging through his company records, and according to 2 industry insiders, already looking for legal exits before the next batch of files goes public. That's not panic. That's damage control on a corporate level. So why the sudden rush? Because Harvey isn't just a PR problem. He's a wild card. Those files he's linked to don't just mention Epstein. They allegedly point to other powerful names. People who still have the influence to crush stories like this before they see daylight. If what insiders are saying is true, and Harvey's leaks go as far as claimed, those big players are scrambling to seal every crack before their own names start popping up next. And here's the part that stings the most: the hypocrisy. For years, Harvey made millions preaching morals, telling people how to live right, how to treat others, how to stay faithful and true. His talk shows, his books, his wisdom moments, all built on that perfect image of integrity. But the timeline now surfacing tells a much darker story. In 2004, he's photographed with Ghislaine Maxwell. In 2006, his name's reportedly on the flight logs during the height of Epstein's operations. And by 2014, leaked texts hint he still had some level of contact.
So they in that generation. And I asked them what is it, and they said, Dad, you clickbait.
Wow.
He said, you clickbait. He said, you one of the most viral people in your age group out there. He said, Dad, every clip on Family Feud got you on it.
Yeah.
You clickbait. If they can take your face and put it on anything, you become clickbait. He said, and that's what it is, you know.
Yet during all that time, he was standing on stage preaching about love, loyalty, and respect. The double standard is shocking. And the disconnect between the image and the evidence has people asking who the real Steve Harvey actually is. This is the kind of betrayal that flips loyal fans into furious critics overnight. But the real issue isn't even about Steve Harvey's past. It's what's happening right now. The files linked to his name aren't old news. They're active legal traps waiting to explode. And the people who control those traps, they're not the forgiving type. What's unfolding isn't a simple cancellation. It's a full-on corporate takedown. Harvey isn't just being distanced from, he's being deleted. Projects have been frozen mid-production. Deals are being shredded, and his name is disappearing from promo campaigns faster than anyone can refresh a webpage. The speed of this cleanup screams legal danger, not just bad publicity. Insiders are whispering that this isn't really about what Harvey did, it's about what he witnessed and who he might have been covering for. And that's where things get even more chilling. The files tied to him don't just expose Epstein's crimes, they allegedly point to other high-profile power players. These are individuals who, unlike Harvey, still have the influence and the money to bury entire scandals before they surface. So if those leaks are as wide-reaching as people inside claim, then Harvey's sudden downfall might not be just another celebrity crash. It could be a carefully planned sacrifice, a strategic move to protect names far more powerful than his, and to keep the world from seeing just how deep this network might really go. Here's the real twist that's got everyone stunned. Steve Harvey might not have stumbled into this mess at all. Sources close to the situation claim he leaked something himself, not by accident, but on purpose. That changes everything. The big question now is, why? Was it a slip of conscience, a desperate move to protect himself, or something way more strategic, like trying to trade secrets for his own safety? The timing makes things even shadier. These files began dropping right as Harvey's financial backers were reportedly tightening the screws on him over other legal headaches, including old rumors surrounding his wife, Marjorie, and her alleged past connections to people tied to substance networks back in the 90s. So was it all just coincidence? Or did Harvey see a chance to use what he knew as leverage? If he really had information powerful enough to make the wrong people nervous, then maybe his sudden silence isn't guilt. Maybe it's survival strategy. But then comes the million-dollar question. Who actually released the files that tied Harvey to Epstein in the first place? The Justice Department's document drop has been a total mess. Delayed releases, redacted pages, and both sides of the political aisle furious about the lack of transparency. Yet even through the blackout ink, key pieces like the 2006 flight logs and the 2014 communications still paint a disturbing picture. One where Harvey appears not as a bystander, but as someone present during crucial points in Epstein's timeline. And that's what's making insiders nervous, because the people guarding those records aren't known for letting loose ends walk free. So what's really going on here? Was this a controlled burn? A planned move to take Harvey down before he could spill something bigger? Or did someone inside his own camp make sure these connections finally came to light, turning Harvey into a pawn in a much larger power play? If Steve Harvey's downfall really was orchestrated, then the next big question hits hard. Who's actually benefiting from it all? The financial dominoes are already tumbling fast. His production company, East 112th Street Productions, has reportedly had multiple projects frozen indefinitely, with networks blaming contractual issues as the cover story. Behind the scenes, though, it sounds more like panic mode than paperwork. His once lucrative endorsement deals, the ones that made him one of the most bankable faces on TV, are being quietly ripped up. And his legal team, usually quick to clap back or deny everything, has gone completely silent. That's not the stance of a man ready to fight. That's the posture of someone who knows the battle's already lost. The only thing left to figure out now is how far the fallout spreads. Because if those files really do link to other big names, and every sign points that way, then Harvey's silence might be the only thing keeping those names out of the public eye. For now. But let's not forget, Harvey's history has never been spotless. It's filled with scandals that, at the time, seemed random or harmless, but now look like early warnings. Remember the 2015 Miss Universe fiasco when he crowned the wrong winner live on air? Or the 2017 meeting with Donald Trump that outraged many of his longtime supporters? And who could forget his 2019 comments about the Flint water crisis, which people slammed as dismissive and out of touch? Each time, he bounced back by playing the "I'm just human, I make mistakes" card and kept moving forward. But this right here, this isn't a slip-up or another awkward headline. It's a full-blown pattern. And when you line that pattern up next to the Epstein documents, it starts to look less like coincidence and more like a playbook that's finally catching up to him. Whatever's happening now isn't random. It's calculated. And every move being made around Harvey feels like part of a bigger, far more dangerous game. The man who spent years preaching accountability now finds himself trapped in the exact kind of scandal he used to call out on camera. The twist, the same people who once cashed in on his righteous image are the very ones making sure he keeps his mouth shut now. It's poetic and brutal. So what happens next? That all depends on who's...
We've seen dozens of new photos we haven't seen before of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with very high-profile people, celebrities, people like Mick Jagger and Michael Jackson, like you showed, also like British royalty and actors. All of that we sort of knew was happening. I want to highlight specifically two for the public interest, and that is President Clinton and President...
If Harvey's leaks were truly accidental, then it's game over. His career's done, his reputation's torched, and those files will vanish under layers of legal threats, hush agreements, and buried statements no one will ever see. But if this was intentional, if Harvey made a calculated move, maybe to protect someone, maybe to buy himself safety, or maybe to strike a deal, then the real story isn't even about him. It's about the names still hiding inside those sealed files. Those are the people who have everything to lose. The ones powerful enough to erase a man's career overnight just to keep their own secrets buried. And if that's what's really going down, then Steve Harvey might not be the villain here at all. He might be the distraction, the fall guy, the one left holding the bag while the real power players walk away untouched. But here's the dangerous part. How long can they actually keep him quiet? And what happens when the man they tried to silence finally decides he's got nothing left to lose and starts talking? The pattern's been right there all along. If you were paying attention, Steve Harvey doesn't just survive scandals, he erases them. Every time the heat rises, the story fades, and somehow he walks away clean. The blueprint for what's happening now, it was written years ago in courtrooms, custody fights, and backroom deals that most people forgot ever happened. Let's rewind to that explosive $60 million lawsuit from his second wife, Mary. She didn't just accuse Harvey of cheating. She accused him of something she called soul destruction. That's right, those were her words in the legal filing. She claimed his behavior was so emotionally damaging, it felt like he was erasing who she was piece by piece. The case eventually got tossed out on a technicality, but the details still linger in the shadows. Mary said she was left with nothing while Harvey's empire kept expanding, and even alleged she was blocked from seeing their son after the divorce. Sound familiar? Because it's the same strategy playing out again. Silence the accuser, control the story, and move on like nothing ever happened. Except this time, the accuser isn't an ex-wife. It's the Justice Department. And the files Harvey's allegedly connected to aren't about family drama. They're about criminal activity tied to names way bigger than his. And then there's the Miss Universe fiasco back in 2015, when Harvey announced the wrong winner live on international TV. Everyone laughed it off. The media turned it into a harmless oops moment, and Harvey bounced back stronger than ever. But looking at it now, it doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like a distraction, a perfectly timed circus act that kept the cameras pointed at his blunder instead of the chaos quietly building behind the scenes. While the world was cracking up over Steve Harvey's live TV blunder, something much quieter, and far more serious was unfolding behind the scenes. At that very same time, Harvey was reportedly locked in another legal battle, this one tied to his production company and allegations of financial mismanagement. Maybe it's coincidence, or maybe it's part of a bigger pattern that's been hiding in plain sight. Now, fast forward to 2017, when Harvey shocked everyone by suddenly showing up at Mar-a-Lago to meet with Donald Trump, the same man he'd publicly criticized before. His fans were confused. His audience felt betrayed, and yet Harvey brushed it off like it was nothing. But when you line up that meeting next to all his other conveniently timed controversies, it starts to look like a strategy, not survival, but redirection. Harvey doesn't just weather storms, he steers them, and the one he's stuck in right now, it's shaping up to be the biggest and most dangerous of his entire career. But this story doesn't stop with Steve, because his wife, Marjorie Harvey, isn't just a side character in this drama. She's right in the middle of it. Her past is just as tangled and controversial as his. Her first husband, Jim L. Townsend, was once labeled by the DEA as a major figure in substance distribution networks. Townsend ended up sentenced to life in prison back in the 1990s until something unbelievable happened. In 2017, he was mysteriously pardoned by President Obama. That's the kind of twist that doesn't just raise eyebrows, it blows the whole story wide open. During her marriage to Jim Townsend, Marjorie Harvey was reportedly under investigation by both the FBI and DEA. though she was never charged with anything. Still, the fact that her name even appeared in those circles raises serious questions. And then came her second husband, Donald Woods, another man whispered to have ties to shady financial dealings. Woods, the father of Marjorie's youngest daughter, Lori Harvey, hasn't been charged publicly either, but insiders claim his name has surfaced in past probes tied to money laundering operations. That's a whole lot of smoke for there to be no fire.
Oh, but we have a congressional act now to requiring the release, but they're going to say, you know
Subject
what?
to
Tom
redaction.
Hanks, it's unfair that he was in Skittles.
Subject to redaction. Subject to redaction.
And we all know what that means. That's to protect.
That's why I'm saying you will never be satisfied with what's released.
So how does a man like Steve Harvey, the same guy who built his entire career on clean, family-first values, end up married to someone with a history that tangled? Maybe the answer isn't love at all. Maybe it's leverage. Because if Marjorie's past is as complicated as the record suggests, then her marriage to Harvey starts looking less like a fairy tale romance and more like a power move. Was she someone he needed to connect with? A risk he thought he could manage? Or was she already part of the network? One that quietly links high-profile figures who've spent years keeping secrets locked away. Because remember, Harvey's downfall right now isn't just about his alleged ties to Epstein. It's about the files. The same files that reportedly name more than just him. Files that could reach right into circles of influence still active today. And if Marjorie's past really overlaps with those same hidden connections, then it's possible the Harveys know way more than they've ever admitted. Because when your spouse has been investigated for ties to trafficking circles, and you later end up linked to Epstein's inner world, that's not random bad luck, that's a pattern. And patterns like that don't just happen. They're built, protected, and paid for by people who have everything to lose if the truth ever comes out. Now it's time to connect the dots between Steve Harvey, Jeffrey Epstein, and Donald Trump. Because this isn't just another scandal, it's starting to look like a full-blown power play. In 2019, leaked emails reportedly showed Epstein claiming that Trump knew about the girls, a chilling reference to the underage individuals allegedly involved in his secret operations. And then there's that notorious birthday book, a scrapbook gifted to Epstein on his 50th birthday, packed with personal messages from powerful and famous friends. Trump's own entry was especially disturbing. A sketch of a woman's torso paired with a note that read, "We have certain things in common." Creepy doesn't even begin to describe it. Now, Harvey's name doesn't appear in the public pages of that book, at least not in what's been released so far. But the question isn't whether he signed it, it's whether he saw it. Because if Harvey really was in Epstein's inner circle, then he would have known about that book, the notes, and what those messages truly meant. They weren't just friendly scribbles, they were receipts. Proof of ties, of secrets, and of leverage. So when Steve Harvey suddenly appeared at Mar-a-Lago in 2017, right as the Epstein situation was bubbling under the surface, it raised serious eyebrows. Was he there just as a guest, posing for a photo op? Or was he there as a messenger? Someone delivering information, or maybe cutting a deal before things got out of hand? Let's not forget, Epstein's world didn't run on friendship. It ran on blackmail and power. Every meeting, every photo, every favor was a form of leverage. And if Harvey was part of that world, even on the edge of it, then his surprise appearance at Trump's resort doesn't look random anymore. It looks strategic. A move in a game that's far bigger and far more dangerous than anyone realized at the time. Was Steve Harvey delivering a warning that day, trying to negotiate protection? Or was he reminding Donald Trump that both of them had something to lose? The timing is way too perfect to brush off. Epstein's name was already back in the headlines, Trump's old connections were under the microscope, and Harvey, the man with one foot in Hollywood and another brushing against Epstein's circle, suddenly appears right in the middle of it all. If that's not the setup for a fall, then what else could it be? But here's the real kicker. The smoking gun isn't in the leaked emails or the flight manifests. It's hidden in that infamous birthday book. Everyone got hung up on Trump's creepy sketch, but they missed the bigger picture. That book wasn't just a keepsake, it was a ledger, a coded roll call of who was in, who was out, and who was willing to play the game. And that's where it gets interesting, because Harvey's name being missing from those public pages might be the most revealing clue of all. It doesn't necessarily mean he wasn't involved. It might mean he was careful, smart enough to avoid leaving fingerprints in a book that everyone in Epstein's world knew could be used as leverage later. But now, The very files Harvey's name is allegedly tied to. Those aren't just Epstein's secrets, they're his too. And if the birthday book was the playbook, then the files Harvey may have leaked are the receipts. What's happening to him right now isn't a regular cancellation. It's a message, a warning to anyone sitting on secrets that could expose the system that protected Epstein and his powerful friends for years. That network didn't vanish when he did, it just shifted faces. And it's not just the men keeping it alive, it's their wives, their partners, their associates, the ones who know exactly where the skeletons are buried and when to keep quiet. That's why Marjorie Harvey's past can't be brushed aside as background noise. It's part of the machinery itself, the same machine that's been operating in the dark, protecting the powerful, and crushing anyone who dares to pull back the curtain. And if Steve Harvey's files really do implicate others, then his downfall isn't the end. It's just the beginning, because the people who made him disappear, they're still out there, still powerful, and definitely not finished. That's the part nobody wants to say out loud. If a man as famous and protected as Harvey can fall this fast, this hard, and this completely, what does that mean for the ones still standing? The ones whose names haven't leaked yet? The ones still smiling for the cameras, giving interviews, and pretending none of this touches them? See, those files, they're not just about Epstein. They're about the entire system that shielded him and others like him for decades. A web of money, status, and silence that's been cracking piece by piece. And if Harvey was the first domino to drop, then we have to ask, who's next? Because for every name that's been exposed, there are others still hidden behind redacted lines and sealed documents. We'll be watching closely. And trust us, you should too, because in a world where men like Epstein could move freely for years, where files vanish and scandals get buried overnight, the only thing more dangerous than the truth itself is the person brave enough to speak it. So now it's your turn. What do you think? Who's still hiding in those files? Drop your theories down in the comments. And make sure to like, subscribe, share, and turn on notifications, because this story is far from over. The next chapter could expose everything, and when it does, you'll want to be the first to know. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and most of all, stay awake, because the second you stop paying attention is the moment they win.